It's possibility to reduce the light a little bit because it's a little bit hurting, you know. I don't want it to feel, you know, I'm under some kind of investigation lighting, you know. Yeah, that's much more friendly. When I was young, I'm not very passionate about the art. I'm doing art only because I think that's a good escape, the boringness of the, you know, the Chinese political situation.
In 1979, Deng Xiaoping's first visit to Washington enabled Ai Weiwei to dream of a better future. The handshake between China's strongman and US President Carter signaled the restoration of diplomatic relations between the two countries and the hope of a way out for thousands of young Chinese. Five years later, at the age of 26, Ai Weiwei arrived in New York, burning with one desire: to experience freedom.
I'm a little bit so uncertain because my mom told me, you don't have any money and you don't know English. How do you survive? I would say, don't worry. Years later, you will see another Picasso.
His painting skills enabled him to enroll at Parsons, the prestigious art school, where Edward Hopper, Jasper Johns, and Richard Avedon had studied. But Ai Weiwei lacked discipline as a student.
I cannot finish my study in Parsons for two reasons. One is my language is not good enough. I just signed my name on the paper and gave it to the teacher, say goodbye. I never liked the school. I don't belong to school. I'm always someone outside a system. School is a strong system. I hate that establishment.
His artistic education took place in the streets. New York was the playground of the avant-garde. Art was breaking free of rules and out of museums. Keith Haring and Basquiat exhibited their work openly on the city's walls.
During the 1985, New York City is very blooming, you know. Everywhere is an exhibition in Soho, in East Village. People can express themselves very with confidence, you know? But those things never happened inside China before our experience. Many things before we don't, even don't think about, you know? You cannot imagine things could happen like this.
He was trying to absorb America, American history, American art history. He was fascinated with Andy Warhol, fascinated. He was trying to be Ai Weiwei, the next generation of thinkers, like the new Andy Warhol. He wanted to be the next thing, the next hot and coming. I had encouraged him. I said, Weiwei, I love your art. I'd seen a lot of his art at his house, his apartment. So that was a Ai Weiwei drawing. So called Bad Boys. And he had another side drawing, a skeleton on skis. I guess he didn't like it, so he tried to mark it out. So that was a failed drawing by Weiwei. It's sort of interesting. I've never seen a failed drawing by Weiwei.
In 1987, gallery owner Ethan Cohen hosted Ai Weiwei's first exhibition, called Old Shoes, Safe Sex.
He created some strange objects, combinations of all kinds. He'd sewn two shoes together. He'd also assembled a violin with a shovel and a handle, thus creating a tool which could produce a sound. It was funny and amusing, a bit like him.
That is in the tradition of Marcel Duchamp's work. That time is very unpopular. Only one person show in New York. Not even anybody buy my art.
It is not true. He did sell. I know he sold at least 3 pieces in that exhibition. I know who bought them. Who? Myself, my mother, and one of my very dear friend clients who bought. We bought it for like $1,800. Yeah. And today, a hanger like that it's worth a lot of money. In the millions, maybe $3 million.
Ai Weiwei experimented with different artistic forms. Lost in New York, he searched for direction. It was in the Lower East Side that he found it. In Tompkins Square, Ai Weiwei took part in a demonstration for the first time in his life. New Yorkers were marching in protest against police violence. He made sure he had his camera with him.
So I took those photos, and I want to test if the photos can be published. So I called the New York Times, called the New York Newsdays and other paper, and they publish 1 or 2 of them. In the West, I think you still have the opportunity to publicize the information you have, and which is unthinkable in China.
Demonstrations for him are a way of opposing, of resisting, of dismantling power. And Weiwei is opposed to power. He's against domination. He's against authoritarian figures. And he's brave enough to stay faithful to his commitments. They've become his backbone.
Humanity, human rights, freedom of speech. If you don't protect those values, you lose anyway.
And just when he didn't want anything more to do with China, the country came back to haunt him. Wide-eyed in front of the TV, he felt in total unison with the protests in Tiananmen Square. Hundreds of thousands of Chinese were calling for political reform, a first for China.
Even excited, because you see such massive demonstrations, not just from students, initiated by students, but from every part of a society, like newspapers, government officials, military, or even police. They all reacted in supporting students. For a moment, you can see some kind of celebration about so-called people's power. But suddenly, it crashed down.
In Beijing, army tanks and machine guns have brought a bloody end to 7 weeks of protests, which had begun joyfully and peacefully in the spring.
We all shocked. During that time, we really upset. Also think about the future. Maybe we can go back to China. So, sometimes depressed, we drink.
Weiwei was very disturbed. He was watching everything. He had protests. He went to the UN. He would, go, I think, lie down in front of the UN and protest what was going on.
I learned so much from it. United Nations, which is useless, talk to journalists, and organize demonstrations on street, also useless, very big ones, but still useless. I learned so much from it.
He's a very angry person, very angry. Everything he does, at least in his most noticeable work, is suffused with anger. I don't really like the word angry. I prefer reactive, someone who isn't indifferent to what's happening in the world. It's fascinating finding out more about this character who takes things to extremes.
Weiwei, he is a political pessimist. And you can understand this. China is this vast, immobile country. And he isn't naive about thinking, oh, it'll change tomorrow. He views, China and the political world that he cares about as actually pretty immutable. And so it's not as if he does his art to change the conduct of political actors. He does his art because he is who he is. It's a form of self-expression. It's a form of being true to himself.
After 10 years in New York, Ai Weiwei hadn't become the new Picasso, so he decided to return to China. But after having experienced freedom, how would he express himself in a totalitarian regime?
The reason I got back is my father's illness, because 12 years I never seen him. But the real reason is I have nothing to do in New York. I'm spending my life, just wasting my life there.
Returning was complicated for him. He found it difficult to readapt. Just imagine an artist who spent more than 10 years in New York, returning to China. He'd really changed. It was hard for him to communicate with Chinese artists because there was too wide a gap between their respective artistic conception and ideas.
Ai Dan became an antiques dealer and dragged his idle older brother around flea markets. There, Ai Weiwei came across a heritage that the Chinese regime had tried to wipe out. In 1966, Mao Zedong launched the Cultural Revolution. The aging despot thought he could safeguard his power by wiping out traditional Chinese culture, which was considered bourgeois. The Red Guards were tasked with destroying everything.
You could go to the antique market and find things that had been buried for 15 years, ceramics that were 300 years old, or jewelry that the family would have buried in their backyard so that the Red Guards would not destroy them.
Suddenly I realized the things we have to destroy in the past is all in the market now. It come out because China started to have capitalized everything for sale. Everything. You can't deny, imagine. You want to buy, you buy, it's just so cheap. And for me, I think those things should be put in museums. But China is far behind. So I started collecting.
To denounce the regime's destruction of collective memory and China's drift towards capitalism, Ai Weiwei was inspired by one of his creative masters, whom he discovered in New York, Andy Warhol.
So this is very interesting. Weiwei gave this to me, and it's I to E, love. I just love how he did that, just I to E. Sort of fun. And so this is a Neolithic vase dipped in actual house paint. He wanted to show how China was so sophisticated in copying, in their manufacturing, but he, as the artist, wanted to show it all and be a conceptual presenter. So that was, Weiwei liked to make us think.
I think in many ways, being an artist in a situation of repression is one of the most challenging things an artist can face, because they can never speak directly. That's just not allowed. They try to figure out indirect communication. What can you say that will communicate something meaningful that the censor won't pick up on? And this art of indirection makes for very interesting art.
His first attempt at protest art went mainly unnoticed in China. One man did take notice, though, the world's first collector of Chinese contemporary art.
Calls me his maker, and like everything he says, at all times you have to take it with a grain of salt. He is the artist, not me. But yes, I could launch his career as an artist.
With the aim of launching Weiwei's career, Ambassador Uli Sig took advantage of a worldwide event.
Les 29e Olympiades 2008 sont attribuées à la ville de Pékin.
As host city of the Olympic Games, Beijing had called upon two Swiss architects whom Sig knew well. He convinced them to work with Ai Weiwei.
For me, it was very important that Herzog Dömeron would have a Chinese voice, bringing a Chinese viewpoint, Chinese culture to this project, which they, by nature, didn't have. So they were very happy to meet with Ai Weiwei. And then all of a sudden, the Bird's Nest as a project surfaced.
Clearly, he had become a public figure. People were watching him. He was a litmus test for political freedoms in China. And the government must have figured, okay, we can put up with a little criticism from Weiwei. Most of this is harmless. It's mostly in the artistic realm. The Beijing Olympics represented a very deliberate strategy by the Chinese government to show itself as being open to the world. It was like, you can come in, play your games, trade with us, but don't you dare do anything political. Don't you dare look at what's really going on in this country.
It was impossible not to see that the Chinese regime were up to their old tricks. Having erased the collective memory during the Cultural Revolution, now the Communist Party was wiping out the population of Beijing by destroying the city's poorer districts. Thousands of families were evicted and ordered to leave the capital.
I'm unemployed, I have no money, and they've destroyed my house. I've spent 25 years in the party, but it counts for nothing.
I didn't give my consent. I didn't sign anything.
I started to criticize the stadium is going to be used for national propaganda rather than really being architecture for the people in Beijing, because they start to kick the people out. So they only want to have a party for foreigners and to celebrate the Communist Party's glorious achievement.
Maybe he had a very naive idea because he had never seen an Olympics. So he realized, well, this is something very different. This is something where the Chinese government celebrates itself. And he started to blog.
Just an unknown artist a few months earlier, his rebellion revealed him to the outside world.
That made him, first time, in the eyes of the government, a real dissident. So in that way, yes, we could call it a turning point.
I'm not dissident, but my country is a dissident government. We are performers. We are being oppressed by power.
Distrust of the Chinese regime was in his DNA. Dissidence was his heritage.
1957, the same year I was born, so my father was exiled. I grew up with my family and him in exile for first 20 years of my life. My father was first generation of the revolutionary intellectuals, have a great influence in China. And after they established the new nation in 1949, he was criticized as the rightist. That means you're anti-revolution and anti-people, anti-communist party.
His father, who's a famous poet, who had been a friend of Mao, who then Mao deposed because he didn't like a poem that Weiwei's father had made, and then sent Weiwei and the entire family to Xinjiang.
We live underground, dugout place, no light in there, and do not have anything. We don't have oil or electricity. We don't have, never have a meat. We just, we're all vegetarians at the time. If we look at today, it's unthinkable. It's beyond painful. It's almost the inhuman life. Discriminated, you're insulted, and then you've been put in hard work as a punishment. So my father was forced to do clean the toilet. In many moments, my father almost finished his life.
Having been confronted with the situation as a child, my brother has been influenced by it all his life, right up to today.
20 years of suffering, orchestrated by the Communist Party. It was an old wound that just would not heal. And so when the Chinese government betrayed its people once more, the artist became political for good. A year on from the catastrophe, the authorities tried to hush up the extent of the disaster. Ai Weiwei wanted to know why.
你是四川地震灾后重建办吗？对。我们希望知道更详细的关于学生死亡情况的人数和姓名的一些资讯。你这数据都是属于那个保密的。
And the government cannot answer me, so they are hiding how many people died, which school collapsed. So we made a citizen investigation. Ever that happened in China. Nobody do that things like that.
His investigation revealed that 7,000 schools had collapsed, whereas official buildings had resisted. Ai Weiwei aimed to prove that corrupt politicians had deliberately turned a blind eye to the poor quality of the buildings.
发生地震以后，我们居然突然发现，学校原来是最不安全的地方。
你挺主动去看了一看，连钢筋都没得，房子里这么放，腐败，还好死了好多人呢，学生在800，白起。
After 1 year of research, located 5,219 students, their name, birthday, their parents, which school they are collapsed, and how they got vanished. And daily I publish my findings on my blog.
That was suddenly moving into forbidden terrain, and that was the end. That was much too dangerous from the perspective of the Chinese Communist Party, because that, threatened the pretense that they were serving the people rather than just serving the corrupt officials who happened to be in charge.
Ai Weiwei didn't just stop at publishing this information within China. To expose the corruption rife in the country to the rest of the world, he illicitly got hold of steel rods from the rubble of the Sichuan schools to create a memorial.
He acquired this stuff that was scrap
He straightened it out and then made this 90-ton post-minimalist piece. So that piece was minimalist in every sense, except there was nothing neutral about the material that was used. All of that stuff had been part of a flawed design process and political corruption. And it had borne some kind of witness to the tragic deaths of, nearly 6,000 young people.
Straight was exhibited in the UK, Brazil, Italy, Germany, and Canada. All over the world, his artistic manifesto was displayed in extra-large formats. In Germany, he covered the Munich House of Art with school bags in homage to the dead. In Singapore, then in Manila, he put 1,815 cans of contaminated infant milk on display as a way of denouncing food insecurity in China. In Italy, Canada, the US, and Australia, his installation Forever castigated the passivity of the Chinese regime, all of which incurred the wrath of the authorities.
He loves being provocative when necessary. He's not at all worried about having enemies. He's used to it. Look at what he went through in China during his childhood. So he's not afraid of adversity, that's for sure.
I think that Weiwei made a very serious decision that he is so committed, and even if it's going to cost him his life, he's going to go for it.
On the 12th of August 2009, Weiwei returned to the region of the earthquake. The following day, he was supposed to be giving evidence at the trial of another whistleblower from Sichuan.
I know things could happen, so I turned on my recorder.
谁呀？警察，检查证件。派出所警察晚上敲门干嘛？门打开。干嘛？你打人是吧？叫我开门，我不让你上。电话拿出来。电话拿出来。电话拿出来可以啊。电话拿出来。你这么好人，你打人吗？他打了。
什么问题？他的头，他们给他不服，他有很怎么说 blood 血在里边很多，所以他们要可以。
My brain started to have blood leaking because of the violence of the police. That almost finished my life, and the doctor saved my life, basically.
Ai Weiwei had become public enemy #1, and the authorities wouldn't leave him alone. He went on record to denounce this harassment in his usual style.
Authoritarians are really afraid of memory, of any evidence. Memory is most important textbook for our knowledge and our wisdom.
我没有拍啊，没干涉到你啊，我在公共的路上，你管得着？你有什么权利看？你有什么权利看？你有执法权吗？你只要牵扯到我们就报了。开什么玩笑？不是你们这什么事情啊？这个是我们送的布置，要来下来检查一下。跟谁呢你啊？哎，下车呀！
It's such a crucial confrontation, psychologically and physically, with the police. They followed me, set up civilian cameras, they threatened me, finally they beat me.
抓我可以。先出去再说。
But we will never stop. We have a group of people from my studio. We're doing videos, cameras, and put it on internet. And every day we learn something new. It's really, really a very celebrate mood for this kind of activism and art together.
He just feels that art must be political, and art is political all the time. So there will always be this type of undertone. The activism will support his art. The art will support his activism. And of course, that gave him an enormous reach, far beyond the art crowd.
It was developing a community that really allows them to speak freely about things. The followers, a lot of them were admirers. They come from a younger generation, and they like to call him God.
The internet become my life. It's a life system. It's life itself.
Weiwei's online presence, even since the time that he was blogging, and then later to the Twitter and all of these, it always has a quality that he can mobilize people. It inspires people to do something.
We act very actively about all kind of incident, Tibet, Xinjiang, and also Arabic Spring. I did write a lot. It was a moment, I think it's not difficult to make some change.
Uprisings in the Arab world might have given inspiration to the Chinese population, but the police, who've been out in force in huge numbers in big cities such as Shanghai, have warded off any attempts at protest. Several thousand human rights activists were taken away in vans.
Xi Jinping is terrified of the Chinese people. And so Xi Jinping wakes up every morning fearful that the Chinese people will somehow get together, rise up, and overthrow the Chinese Communist Party. And his entire political existence is devoted to preventing the possibility of people even talking to each other publicly, let alone organizing or demonstrating or protesting. He's terrified of that.
In general, when something gathers a lot of traction, gathers a lot of public attention, it does get on the nerves of the regime.
The dissident artist Ai Weiwei was arrested in Beijing on Sunday and taken to a secret detention center. His family have no news from him.
He was arrested yesterday before boarding a flight to Hong Kong.
We had no idea where he was. We knew absolutely nothing. There were numerous rumors on the internet, and some of them weren't very good. Some people said he was being mistreated.
We were very disturbed. We didn't know where he was. We didn't know how long. We didn't know if he would ever come back. We knew that, the former, the dissident who had won the Nobel Prize was in jail, and he was not coming out of jail. So, Weiwei could have been permanently in jail.
I don't know where I am. And the soldier standing right in front of me, two of them, 24 hours a day, and every day waiting for interrogation. And I have to do everything in front of them, taking a shower, go to bathroom, brush my teeth, eating, sleeping. They're always standing there. And, it's extremely difficult situation. They're telling me I may face in over 10 years of sentence. They're above the law, so anything can happen.
There was worldwide mobilization for Ai Weiwei, for art and for freedom of expression. A petition obtained tens of thousands of signatures from 174 countries. In the US, Barack Obama's Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, was engaged in a diplomatic arm wrestle with Beijing.
Such detention is contrary to the rule of law, and we urge China to release all of those who have been detained for exercising their internationally recognized right to free expression. Among them, most recently, was the prominent artist, Ai Weiwei.
And then that evening,
Ai Weiwei, welcome back.
I still remember that scene. It's also on the news a lot. He lost a lot of weight. He's holding his hands and just, trying to get through the studio.
And the conditions you were held under, can you say anything about that?
No, I cannot say anything. Really sorry.
You must be pleased.
Please understand. Yeah, I'm so happy I'm home, and thank you.
What about a message to the people in the UK who've been campaigning for your release?
I thank everybody, very gratefully. Thank you. Thank
you. When I released, I have to sign a condition paper, like I cannot go back to internet, I cannot talk to foreign journalists, I cannot have any association with other activists, such a long list. It takes a while for me to adjust my situation because my body and my mind is kind of weak. So when I feel I'm ready, I start go back to connections to outside the world. Still, I have to tell the world many people still in jail, and many people are still under this kind of very dark, unfair treatment. So become my responsibility. Even that's a risk, they can take me back anytime. Still, I decide I have to do that.
To channel his emotions, Ai Weiwei turned this experience into a work of art.
So I think use language is very hard to describe. As an artist, it's not difficult for me to completely present the situation.
"当时因为80多天没见到自己的样子什么样，没镜子。后来放我出来的时候，我去公安局那个厕所里，镜子里吓我一跳。哦，对对对，怪不得我靠，真的，跟他妈跟他妈基地组织的似的。这样子。
In 2013, at the Venice Biennale, the rest of the world witnessed the inhumane conditions of his incarceration. Since he wasn't allowed a passport, it was his mother who inaugurated the installation on his behalf. The regime had no idea how to deal with this indomitable artist. His passport was returned to him. In 2015, Ai Weiwei was asked to leave the country.
It's clear that now the Chinese government have given him his passport back, that he's seen as, well, not necessarily, less of a threat, but he's a thorn in the side, but they've almost just pushed him to one side.
My studio being destroyed, my work are being destroyed. Authority totally shut up all my tape off. Even my name cannot appear. This is probably the third or fourth studio I'm building. Someone, their professional is to destroy, but I'm a builder. As a political refugee, I want a more private life. I want this kind of quietness or solitude. I think it's good for my condition today.
You know, there's a certain sadness in Weiwei that he is in exile. His life in exile has affected his art. I mean, I think if you look at, his focus on refugees for a while.
I'm still always on the side of the social justice. People who has no voice, poor, or being oppressed.
With Law of the Journey, he put on display a 70-metre-long inflatable dinghy, thus denouncing the fate of refugees. But this piece of work didn't quench his thirst for justice. Armed with a camera, he set out on a long journey across 23 countries in order to make a documentary criticizing the cowardice of Europe.
When you have refugees being pushed into the ocean, when French and England have to argue the refugees how to deal with the situation, and all under political business or negotiation, there's no understanding about humanity. And ignorance and hypocrisy is a general condition of the West.
I do think he was describing his own kind of inner reaction to this plight through the lives of people who were clearly less fortunate, but who shared with him the loss of their homeland because of a ruthless government.
I show you my Chinese passport. Huh? I also have a passport.
Yes, we changed passport.
So you go to China and then come to
Syria.
Yeah. So you have this.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
What's my new name?
Mahmoud.
Mahmoud.
Yes.
Abdullah Mahmoud.
I'll give you my tent.
My name is Ai Weiwei. So
Ai
next
Weiwei.
time you're Ai Weiwei, I'm
Al Mahmoud. Nice to meet you.
He often puts himself in the center of his work because it's his way of saying something loud and clear. Audiences have sometimes accused him of exploiting misfortune, of making money out of it.
Good evening. Can one image, one simple photo, in this case that of a dead Syrian child washed up on a beach, change people's perception?
It's a good way of drawing attention to himself, to speculate on a symbolic tragedy by posing in an identical way to a dead child. In my opinion, and I stand by it, I think this is the most stupid thing one could do.
I don't understand what the fuck they're talking about. Daily, monthly, or yearly, thousands refugees drowned in the ocean. Do we care? Of course we don't care. You know, people are just so shallow, and they have this very hypocrite judgment because if they feel shamed, they don't help those refugees.
He's always trying to get under our skin, trying to make us a bit uncomfortable, because that's what forced you to think. You know, with Weiwei, you don't just go to the gallery and look at another piece of art. You know, he forces you to think about what's going on.
Ai Weiwei loves being difficult, shaking things up, questioning memory and conscience, and hitting where it hurts. His works bring past and present into collision, sculpting the history of our cowardice, our failings, our imperfect humanity.
Those tools from thousands years ago, I collect them. I have over 20,000 of them. I try to display works in relating to history, human memory, and past struggles. Those works is going to be showing in British Design Museum.
Throughout his life, Ai Weiwei has learned to slip through the slightest cracks towards freedom, because he's well aware how fleeting it can be. It's a vocation that has earned him both prison and glory. By pissing off the system, Ai Weiwei has become a worldwide star.
I don't care about the fame. I know what's fame like because I always remember how we lived when my father cleansed those public toilets. He was much famous in China. Nobody would help him, and the people would only throw rocks on him. So I understand, you know, what is behind this kind of public assumption about famous or to being well-known, which means nothing, absolute nothing. I have a responsibility to protect human dignity, fairness, freedom of expression, and those, for me, is essential for being a human. And happened I'm an artist, and that's why I'm act